In a one-on-one interview with LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell, we're learning more about the department's response to emergency calls during the immigration raids and protests. Data from emergency calls shows the number of police responses in LA dipped in June, when hundreds of officers were removed from their regular patrols to help with crowd control downtown. But the LAPD says this is not evidence that fewer people were calling the police for assistance. Our investigative reporter Eric Leonard tracks crime trends for us. He joins us live from the newsroom with an update on this.
All right, Colleen. Well, it stands to reason that when those hundreds of officers were pulled away from their normal neighborhood patrol duties, there were just fewer of them to respond to calls for everything from loud parties to assaults. Well, LA's police chief says he doesn't believe that call reduction was because residents had become fearful to call for help. And the chief says he wants to remind the community again that LAPD officers don't get involved in most immigration enforcement.
During this period of time, I would attribute it to the tactical alert.
LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell considering department emergency call data that showed a 21% drop in the number of 911 and other service calls in June compared with the previous month. June is when the department was on a modified schedule, a tactical alert for days on end, as officers were doing crowd control and security during and after protests. NBC4 Investigates analyzed the underlying data. It showed officers made nearly half as many traffic stops in June and went to fewer noise, party, and disturbance calls. Then the number of police responses generally returned to regular levels in July.
We saw the call load go back up to normal. And so I'm comfortable in saying that the relationship that we have and continue to have with all of our communities throughout the city, including our immigrant communities, is one of trust.
A major concern was that more aggressive federal immigration enforcement would make people worried to call local police for things like domestic violence. The call data showed, however, there was little statistical change in the number of domestic violence calls in June, with a 1.74% reduction.
We're here for everybody. No matter what community we're talking about, whatever your status is, if you need help, the LAPD will respond. And we do not involve ourselves in civil immigration enforcement.
A similar call reduction happened in January and February, when hundreds of LAPD officers were pulled from regular patrol to respond to the Palisades fire, then patrol the burned neighborhoods for weeks. As we reported in February, that meant other parts of the city had fewer officers, and some non-urgent police calls didn't get responses from officers.
We rolled from the fires, then into the mudslides, then into a budget cycle that was extremely challenging, and then into the unrest we saw as a result of civil immigration enforcement by ICE.
Now, there are lots of other factors that affect the number of emergency calls and the types of emergency calls received by the department each month. So it's almost impossible to know exactly what causes these trends to go up and down. But two key indicators would be the number of crime reports taken and whether arrests were made. But right now, the LAPD isn't sharing that data with the public, so we will follow up as soon as we have access to better information. Back to you in the studio.